mild white emptiness between you and me.
Can't reach across it, hardly even see.
Someone ought to take a step one way or other.
Let's say goodbye, or let's say brother.
It's challenging. But, I've talked about before how, as filmmakers, narrative filmmakers, that we are creators of illusion. We have to create the illusion and we have to sustain the illusion. Don Barry, Video Anatomy. I'm calling this episode Black and Light. And the basic reason is because I'm addressing lighting. And the idea here is that I'm shooting most of it in black and white. So the original short film that I've done for the piece that we're going to see shortly was shot in black and white. And I'm using some film noir lighting techniques, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But I really have wanted to do a black and white piece for a long time. So again, like last time, we have an original script that I've written with actors. We shot it on location, and it's also a period piece. It takes place in 1964. I wanted to kind of use the past to show the past. So, many movies and most television programs, in the early 60s were shot in black and white. And by people who had worked in black and white, probably most or all of their careers. And again, and feature films, many were still in black and white. So again, I wanted to use visual techniques, film techniques, cinematography from the past. To also tell a story from the past. Black and white gives you a certain, remove from day-to-day reality. And you can do certain things with it and create certain moods that you can't really create with color. So this piece is, to some extent, a film noir. And, film noir was a technique of cinematography and lighting that was very popular in the 1940s and throughout the 1940s and into the 1950s. And it was based on this idea of creating very strong contrasts between light and dark, between light and shadow. So, and anybody who worked in black and white, even if they weren't doing film noir, they still kind of brought some of these ideas into their work. And so my hope is with this short film that you'll be able to see some of that. So again, it's not exactly a film noir piece, but it borrows, I think, heavily from that. So we'll talk about that in, kind of dissect it once you've seen it. So we're going to go ahead and go to that now. And let me present Cars.
St. Louis in 1964 is celebrating the 200th anniversary of its founding, and the Cardinals dramatically climaxed that celebration by winning their first pennant in 18 years. McCarver talks with Gibson, who still needs one more out, and the troublesome Bobby Richardson is up, but the weary Gibson reaches back for something extra. Richardson pops up. Down Maxville. Gathers it in. The Cardinals are the new world champions. Gibson, Boyer, and McCarver join in a big...
Direct from our newsroom in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite and...
Gib mir, was ich will, oder du wirst leiden. Ich weiß, dass du dich an mich erinnerst, Daniel. I know you remember me. It's been a long time. Meet me at the abandoned lot on Euclid and South Street.
Today, mit euch ihre Blicke weiß ich, mein Lebenskampf ist nicht umsonst gekämpft.
Das ist Jet, meiner Uhr.
It's not you. How could it be? That was 20 years ago.
Well, who'd you think I was?
What are you doing here?
Just driving around.
I don't believe you. Be straight with me, damn it.
Well, when I say driving around, I don't just mean geographically. I mean, I could be driving through time and space.
What kind of car is that?
Different years, ain't it? Well, it's about 60 years ahead of what you're driving now. It's got anti-lock brakes, GPS, 8-speaker surround sound. Oh, and airbags.
What the hell are you talking about?
My car. You asked me about my car. But it's your car I'm interested in tonight, Daniel. Yeah, I know your name. You know, Daniel, your car, it wouldn't stand up to anything they've got in 2020. In fact, they'd probably laugh at your cranked down windows and your vinyl seats, no air conditioning. But take, for instance, if we took your car to a time and a place where they didn't have any motorized vehicles, somewhere that they had to ride an animal or walk if they wanted to get somewhere. Well, your Chevy Corvair there, it'd be priceless. Point being, technology is relative. Heck, sometimes having a gun is just as powerful as having a whole army. Consider a small aspirin tablet. In the hands of the right person, they could become a powerful healer. Or consider a watch. Like the watch I took from you all those years ago.
Bastard, it is you.
Enough. Render unto me, human! Human, 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 human.
saw, I hope, a lot of contrast between light and dark. Again, it was my attempt to create, to play off light and darkness. One of the things I did was to use a film noir technique. The villain of the piece, the alien character who travels throughout history, is lit with only a key light. There are very, very, as you saw, sharp contrasts in his face. At one point he's in deep darkness. At another point, a whole side of his face is in darkness. He crosses into the light very briefly, and then he crosses back into the darkness. So again, that constant contrast, those sort of like striations of just light and then total darkness. By having that darkness, or having that villain character step in and into darkness, and in and out of darkness, it makes him more, it gives the audience the impression that he's hiding something, that there's something sinister there. By contrast, the protagonist character, Daniel, I lit him very traditionally. I gave him a key, I gave him a film, and I gave him a backlight, because I wanted him to, I wanted him to appear non-threatening. I wanted the audience to see basically all of him. In film noir, usually the environment takes on, kind of a character of its own. The environment kind of takes on a life of its own, becomes a character in the story. So the abandoned parking lot in Cars, I wanted to kind of give that the same quality, that it acts almost as a character in the story. I used a very tight framing, and I used a very boxed framing. I used the angles of the car window to kind of like as a sort of a box or a slit to kind of lock him into, and just kind of the geometry of the car as he's driving, and the seat, and and the frame itself is kind of pressing against him, and kind of not giving him a whole lot of room to to move around in and to kind of be in. A lot of times in film noir, the vehicles tend to have a certain harsh, the textures are harsh. The textures are rough and cold, right? You have cold metal. When you do a period piece, I talked before in the last episode how, we're creators of illusion, right? Narrative film versus documentary, documentary, hey, here's a subject, let me just point the camera at them, right? Narrative film, you've got to create an illusion. I talked about you've got to hire actors, you've got to build sets, you've got to have costumes and props, all of that. And so, of course, on modest productions like this, obviously you have to be careful not to end up with a huge overhead, when you have a limited budget. But one of the easiest ways, two of the easiest ways, to give an audience an immediate sense of the period, actually three ways, to give an audience an immediate sense of the period. So the film starts up, you usually assume a film is set in the present unless somebody tells you different. Well, okay, so you have to be, create that contract with the audience up front. You have to be like, okay, well, you've got to let them know up front what time they're in, what time and what place. Most importantly, what time. So there's really three simple ways to do that. And the three best ways to do that are the cars that are driven, right? So immediately you see the cars, okay, you see, cars from the 50s look very different from cars from today. Cars from the 60s look different from cars today. Clothing, the clothes, the costumes that they wear. And lastly, the radio or television broadcast.
Direct from our newsroom in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite and Richard C. Hartlett at the United Nations, Lew Wood in Macomb, Mississippi, Hughes Rudd in Chicago, Sam Zellman in Los Angeles, Roger Mudd in Washington, and Bill Plant in Brooklyn.
Video anatomy, shot in 4K, presented in 4K, prime lenses. Next episode, so we talked about lighting this time around. Next episode is going to be focused more on the outdoors, to just give you a little bit of a teaser. We're going to be dealing with wildlife, horses, and insects. Okay, I'm just going to share with you my idea for the next episode. All right, it might get shot down. I don't know. Horses and roaches. Now, okay. I will say, if on the theory that time is a closed loop, that if you haven't seen it already, we have, or we will do, a video anatomy episode that deals with aspect ratio. So next episode is going to be out. A lot of it's going to be out of doors in big open spaces.
Das ist Jet meiner